At 6:42, the sun stopped shining. In his studio apartment, Brian sat with his back against the wall and head leaned back. He liked to keep the windows open when this happened. Down below, the people yelled, "Get out of my way! Move!" The cars honked, knowing they were too late. Soon, it began. The fighter jets. The whoosh and the whir, so loud and so close to the buildings, it seemed like they were going to crash. Despite 3 months of this, people still screamed. It's another reason Brian liked to keep the windows open, to remember he caused this. How did Brian cause this? Why did the sun stop shining? Let's write for 7 minutes and see. Ready? Go. That was 7 minutes. You can finish your last sentence. Okay. This one was interesting. I usually don't go for like the dystopian, I don't know, action, Civil War type vibes. But I just wanted to do something different. And, you know, when I write these prompts, I kind of just think of something and go from there. And the first thing I thought of was it's 6:42. The sun stopped shining. Very intense. Let me turn this off real quick. So this was more internal thinking. I know sometimes I do dialogues, sometimes I do kind of heavy description of the scene or scenery, but this time was just hearing about Brian. What the heck caused all this, and why does he want to remember that he did this? So here is what I wrote. At 6:42, the sun stopped shining. Brian, in his studio apartment, sat with his head leaned back and his back against the wall. He liked to keep the window open when this happened. Down below, the people yelled, "Get out of my way! Move!" The cars honked, knowing they were too late. Soon, it began. The fighter jets. The whir and the whoosh, so loud and so close to buildings, it seemed like they were going to crash. Despite 3 months of this, people still screamed. It's another reason Brian liked to keep the window open, to remember he did this. It was an honest mistake when he bombed the Chinese embassy. Those were the coordinates he received, or his dyslexia thought he received. So in the helicopter, that's where the heavy metal fell and exploded the building and his career. Brian spent weeks blaming himself. It wasn't hard when being beaten and interrogated by the upper echelon of the military. They told him he was lucky he was going to live. Sitting in his apartment where his electricity and water were shut off, he didn't feel so lucky. Although he kept the window open as a reminder of his failure, he also couldn't shut it because it was so hot he'd suffocate. So he crawled to the window and stared at Bill, who sat at the roof of the building across the street. He and some other guys took shifts. Brian waved. This time, he thought he saw a slight head nod. Bill was a good guy, good at his job. Brian felt the most guilt about bringing his friends into this bloodbath he caused. What was worse, though, is his friend Bill had to keep his loaded rifle perched, waiting for the signal to shoot. So hopefully, despite it being internal narrative, it's still kind of built in a way of getting these slight details. Wait, what's Bill doing? Just hanging out across the street? Is he there because of like all the fighter jet stuff going on? And the quote unquote reveal at the end is actually no, he is stationed there because he needs to keep an eye on Brian and shoot. So let me know what you think. It's always a little difficult for me to do the internal narrative and keep it interesting and keeping the story moving. So yeah, drop your stories below. I would love to read what you guys wrote from this prompt. And thanks for writing with me. I'm proud of you. I'll see you next time.